Day! Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody! In today's video, I'm going to be showing you something that is St. Patrick's Day while not. There's no green, there's no shamrocks. I didn't really feel like doing green and shamrocks, so instead I'm going to be doing a beer pint that is inverted over the nail with Guinness pouring over the nail. It's one of my favorite techniques to do. I love anything that's pouring. I think just the whole thing looks very, it's surreal, it's very over the top, it's crazy. It's not wearable, but it's fun. I hope you love it as much as I do. The foam technique is one you'll probably recognize, but it's a little secret, so stay tuned to the end, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!
We are going to start with an overlay of a cover pink acrylic just to create a sort of a neutral background. You won't even really see it at the end, but you don't want it to be a color that's going to show. So you could either do a clear or I wouldn't do white, but a clear or a tan, just something to kind of be invisible in the background. This color I think is really a great choice if you have it. Then we're going to file the nail into shape with our e-file to make sure it's all nice and smooth and ready for action. Then drill a little hole right past where your live nail is, where the nail bed is, so that you can attach a post through it later on. So now around a straw, we're going to be sculpting a clear cylinder that's going to be the base for our pint glass. And as you're sculpting this, be cognizant of how big you want your pint glass to be as far as the length goes, because this really is going to be the start of the whole thing. So we're going to be sculpting it from, mine's about 3/4 of an inch, give or take. I don't measure anything necessarily, but just, eyeballing it, or a little less than 2 centimeters, I would say is about how big my pint glass is. But it kind of depends on, how big your nail is, how big you want this to be, etc., etc. So then after we have that started, we're going to be thickening up the upper third of our pint glass. So it's going to have this like bulge in the upper third, right below the mouth of the glass. So add a nice thicker area to that, sort of add a little bit more right to the mouth just to smooth it out and make it thick enough. That first layer of acrylic that I did over the top of this to make that initial cylinder was so incredibly thin that if we weren't to thicken up the entire thing, it would be very delicate. And when you went to, take it off the straw, you have a pretty high chance of breaking the whole thing. Then after you have that done and it's kind of smoothed out, so it has that nice gentle slope right around that bulge in the middle, you're going to flare out the very end of your pint glass as well. So you're going to just pop it out a little bit right along that bottom edge. After it's all been cured and set up, you can very carefully, gently turn it off of the straw and pull. And then on a nail form backing, place a little bead of clear acrylic down and then set your pint glass right on top of it. That will create the bottom of it. If there's any extra acrylic that's oozed out from around the edges, you can clean that up with a dotting tool. And then once that is all done, you can take it off the nail form backing and you can start filing this into shape. Because of the curvature of the glass, I really do not recommend attempting to do this with a hand file, because a hand file just will not get into the little spaces it needs to. If you don't have an e-file or you aren't comfortable using an e-file, just don't file this. Leave it exactly as it is and it will be just fine. If you are a perfectionist and you want to file it into the shape that it is, even more so, obviously, who am I to stand in your way? I did it. I love filing things until they are completely to my satisfaction. So like I said, depending on your situation, if you aren't an e-file person or if you just aren't that comfortable with an e-file, you haven't gotten to the point where, you can carve little details with one, just skip it, because you might end up doing more harm than good. After I have it pretty much e-filed into shape, I am going to take a hand file and straighten up the things I can, which for the most part is right along the bottom, the upper rim, and then right along the mouth. But trying to do any of those like inner curves just isn't going to work out too well for you. And this file I'm using is a 240 grit file, so if anybody's like, wow, you're really going at it, just keep in mind that that file is essentially like a buffer block. It is very, very gentle. Into that hole that we carved into the nail, I'm going to place a piece of curved wire with clear acrylic. I'm going to add a little more clear acrylic to make sure it's not going anywhere, cut off the extra wire, and then attach the other end of the wire, so the one that's up in the air, to the inside of your pint glass. Hold that in place until it starts to grab. Once you can let go, you're going to want to secure the wire to the bottle or to the glass with even more acrylic, as well as thicken up the stream that is being poured out of the glass. So you're going to cover up that wire. You can add a little bit of texture to it, some like drippy action going on, and you can add just a little bit more, detail to it in general. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy. It's a stream of liquid being poured out of a cup. One thing I do want to mention is, even though this design is specifically geared towards Guinness, you can do whatever brand of beer you want with this. You can do the same pint glass and you can switch it up. And if there's a certain brand that you personally like to drink, or that if you're doing this design for somebody, you could just have a lot of fun with it and personalize it that way. If you are trying to stick with the luck of the Irish, as I am, to be a St. Patrick's Day kind of design, and you want to go with Guinness, then we're going to start writing the Guinness logo across the glass. So I'm going to start with an N. I'm going to do NNESS. And then after you have that done with your white paint, you're going to go back to the front of the word and you're going to work backwards. So then after you have that, we're going to go back through and we're going to do an I, and then a U, and then a G. So when you're doing it this way, you're making it so that those letters are a little bit centered on your glass. This isn't a nail where it has to be centered because the glass is up in the air. So it could be, tipped to the side. It could be more facing the front or the back, however you want to do it. It isn't imperative that it's right in the center, but if you have an approximate area that you want the word to be centered in front of, then you can go through and you can make sure that it's at least close to that by starting in the middle of the word and working your way out. After I have that written, I'm going to add drought underneath it. Guinness makes a bunch of different types of beer, so you can switch it up and do a stout, or I don't drink beer, so you can do whatever you want. I did a bare minimum of research in order to do this design, and that's my knowledge. So if I say anything idiotic, you know why. We have the little gold lines on either side of drought, and then above that, we're going to be doing a harp. And then we're going to be adding since 19... or established, not since 1759. See, saying stuff that's idiotic. It happens. Now on a little palette, we're going to be mixing some, it's sheer black with sheer red with brown with clear top coat. Your mix of beer color, depending on the brand or even the kind of beer within a brand, might be different. So depending on what you're doing, it might have to be more red or more orange, more clear, more golden. There's so many different things here. What I'm looking for is a semi-sheer, very dark reddish brown. Once I've achieved that particular mix by diluting the pigment with top coat and using red tones and browns and blacks, I'm going to be filling in the edge of my bottle. I'm going to keep saying bottle, goodness gracious. The edge of my cup glass, the clear thing, with that color, extending it down the nail, down that pouring acrylic wire contraption, and then I'm going to be adding a splotch of it over the nail. The way that you splotched on the nail is not very crucial at with this design. It's not like some of them where you want to be like a pretty spill, because it's going to be partially covered up. However it works out is just fine. So don't stress over exactly how it looks on the nail. Add a second coat if you want to, and then apply some gel top coat over the whole thing. If your gel dried sticky at all, you must apply top coat. If your mix isn't sticky, if it's just, say, top coat and gel paint that has no inhibition layer, you don't need to apply the top coat. And if that's the case, that's really beneficial because then you can skip that step. We're also going to be applying a layer of gel top coat over our Guinness glass so that it is nice and shiny and really, really clear. And then once you're done with that and it's all been cured and it's all done, then we're going to be mixing some more paint. So we've got a splotch of top coat and a splotch of cream color, and we're going to be mixing it to get a just slightly less opaque, clear, creamy color. Then we're going to be applying that creamy color, again, not super perfectly, just around the perimeter of the nail. So whatever nail color you're using before is going to be covered up. Now, before you cure, this is going to be really important. So I'm actually adding a little bit more that's slightly more diluted as far as the pigment goes. We're going to be applying some foam. So the foam I just used, this is a huge tip, you guys. Have you ever seen the Dawn Power Spray stuff? It's like a spray bottle of dish soap. That worked beautifully for adding in the foam. So you squirt into a little cup, use your finger, spread it on, and cure it. So cure it with the foam intact. As soon as the foam is on the nail, you throw that into your lamp. And then this nail is done. Dry off a little bit of the foam when it comes out of the lamp and you're good to go. I hope you guys love this one as much as I do. I think it is just the cutest thing. I hope you guys enjoy your St. Patrick's Day and are safe, and I will see you all next time. Bye!